hopefully, knock on wood, we're going to be figuring out who is going to be inaugurated in January. And we won't have any debate about that. And the country will move on and heal itself. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. But you were asking the question a little bit about me. Yeah, things have changed quite a bit since the last time I saw you, not just economically, but the company-wise. The company's growing at such a rapid pace. It is now, last time I was on a program, I think it was 3 weeks ago or something around there.
Yes, it seems like that.
We're on 110 or 115 national stations. Now we're on 575, 580 stations.
Wow.
We're nationally syndicated. I'm on some major talk show hosts. They heard of me. They found me on the internet. People talk to people. And so I'm doing now a branding called Money Mondays on 3 national networks, talking specifically the economics of what's going on in our economy and how politics affects that, how the Fed affects it, and precious metals. Obviously, we talk a little bit about that, but and how to protect your money, diversify out of stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So the things are just happening for the company. I can barely keep up, it seems like, but it's been a great ride, and I love what I'm doing.
You know what? And thank you. Congratulations with everything that's going on. That's awesome. I do know that you have made it unbelievably easy for people to do what you suggest, and I want to talk a little bit about that because it's important for them to hear that. I know you have a lot to get to today, but tell them about taking personal possession of their gold.
Well, I've helped a lot of people, Carol. I've been doing this for 23 years, and you can take advantage of gold and silver and hold it in your possession in your retirement. Most people don't understand that. There's a methodology to it. We have a couple white papers on it that we can give away at the end of the program about that, where you actually can roll over your IRA, your 401k, buy physical precious metals, take possession of it, not in a third-party depository, although you can do that too with our company. But the cost is very cost effective. The attorney that we use is here's local in Arizona, and if you're doing this through an Arizona corporation, because you have to set up an LLC, and we have everything. It's turnkey. I explain it, I educate, and there's no pressure working with our company. It's $350. My competitor's somewhere around $995 to $1995. If you're out of state, we do a lot of national talk show hosts, and a lot of people contact us from all around the country. And we've done lots of these, and it's $385. Still considerably cost-effective compared to most of my competitors. And what this does is, and we've talked about this bail-in before, if the country moves towards this direction, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, if they try and flip the switch, they can't seize your assets that you hold physically in your hand, like a stock, bond, or mutual fund. So it really puts a lot of insulation between you and the government. If they don't go that direction, like the other 14 countries did already in the last 6 years, then they choose to inflate our way out of this problem, because they got to deal with our debts somehow, some way. And maybe they're going to kick the can down the road, and that will devalue the dollar, and we'll see inverse deflation, is what I call it. Gold and silver will go up. So there's really very few times in the history that I've been doing this, so 23 years, that all roads lead to gold and silver, but we're definitely in that environment, especially with a country divided like we are.
Well, we want to make sure that they can check you out on their website, which is landmarkgold.com. You can also call them direct at 602-287-9200. They're all about education. They do free consultations. And what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I want to give a quick update on what's going on with Deutsche Bank. And just for our first few minutes here, and our new listeners, they say, why is he talking about what's going over across the pond in Germany? And well, Deutsche Bank is so much bigger than Lehman Brothers, and Lehman Brothers brought down the system in 2008. And to put it in perspective, Lehman Brothers had leveraged derivative markets in their portfolio, which was around $22 trillion, and they were working with 208 companies or subsidiaries. They couldn't unwind their books fast enough, and that's what caused Lehman to go down. So putting that in perspective, Deutsche Bank has $72 trillion, almost 4 times as much, in derivative contracts, and they have 3,112 entities that they work with called subsidiaries that they're interconnected with. There's no way possible they can unwind. So there's this $14 billion fine that the Department of Justice has against Deutsche Bank. They still have not been able to settle on a payment, or they don't have enough money. They have around $5.5 billion. So they're in they're having some financial challenges, to say the least. And every week that goes by, something seems to happen. I'm going to share something that will happen just recently. They got downgraded, they got put on a Fitch watch list. In other words, there's Moody's, there's Standard & Poor's, and there's Fitch. Fitch just put them on a negative watch list. They're saying that we have to watch what's going on with Deutsche Bank because now it's critical. And the other thing, that there's a default level that they're reaching, that they're approaching on an index level, that it's now at critical according to Moody's. So here we have two of the three credit rating agencies that are watching it and saying this is getting really close to now to a fault. Even though their stock has risen a little bit, it's around $13.50, $14 now. It was getting ready to break down below 10 here about a month and a half ago, but they reversed that, and they actually came out with some quarterly earnings. They had $7 billion loss last year. $7 billion. Their stock has dropped 52%. They got delisted from all the stocks, like being taken off the NASDAQ or taken off the Dow. They were one of the top stocks. They got taken off the index called the stocks on August 16th of this year, which is a huge black eye. And currently, they were supposed to declare a loss. 25 to 30 analysts said third quarter reports are going to be somewhere around a $667 million loss. Unexpectedly, they came out, and in between the declared loss of the analysts and the declared profit of what they said, there was a warning of a global meltdown happening through the European press. So here's what happened. Unexpected earnings came out a day later of this warning of $303 million. Let me ask you this. How in the world can an analyst, 25 to 30 of them, be off $1 billion?
Wow, I can't even imagine.
They cook the books.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Wow. We're going to be going to a break. We got a couple of more minutes, so before we go, they're telling me to, and then they changed it. But let's talk a little bit. Well, how is that? I mean, obviously you said that people are going to ask you why you're talking about that. Yeah. How is it going to affect us?
Well, if you knew and saw the warning signs of 2008 and what to look for, you'd want to know what that was coming. We're seeing the same mirror image, but much more severe. According to Fox News a month and a half ago, there were 6 analysts talking about this before even some of this bad news came out. And one was saying if Deutsche Bank goes down, it'll make like Lehman Brothers a day at the beach. The other one said it would be like a walk in the park. The third one said within one day we would have 2 major insolvent banks in the United States go bankrupt, and within a week we'd have 4 or 5. This would affect us. We live in a global society. We're starting to see the same ramifications of all over. It's just not here in America, but it's a much larger institution than Lehman Brothers, and we're not immune from it. So this is why I'm saying this time around, they passed this law called the Dodd-Frank Act. I think they would instill that, the seizure of assets, just like they did in this report that we have, talks about all this in detail, how they would initiate a seizure of assets in our country, according to the Dodd-Frank Act that was passed in 2010, signed into law under President Obama, which now changed the legal ownership of our money.
Well, I'll tell you something. It makes more sense as you talk to take control of our money, to have possession of it. And so check him out on his website. It's landmarkgold.com. Their phone number direct. They do free consultation. It's 602-287-9200. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further and let people also get your white paper as well. Again, check them out. It is landmarkgold.com or 602-287-9200. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with David Fisher. He's the CEO of Landmark Capital. And at the break, we were talking about, I was asking you, how can they do this? And you had brought something with you. Can you tell everybody what you have there in your hand and what you're going to read?
I've been asked that question, how can they do this so much this week? I came prepared because I've been saying this on national radio. I have in my hand, I actually printed it out from the government website, fdic.gov. And you can see the insignia there of the FDIC.
Yes.
This is a report that was done with the FDIC and the Bank of England, and it was put together on December 10th, 2012, after they passed the Dodd-Frank Act, which was passed on July 21st, 2010. So this is the interpretation of the Dodd-Frank Act and how it would be implemented. So we read in just the first page under the executive summary, it says, in the U.S., the strategy has been developed In other words, they got it in place in the context of the powers provided by the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Financial Protection Act of 2000. Such a strategy would apply a single receivership to the top-tier holding company, assign losses to shareholders. In other words, people hold stock in a bank. If you held stock in Bank of America, you're assigned losses, okay? And unsecured creditors, in other words, depositors who have their money, us, of the holding company, and transfer the sound operating subsidiaries to a new solvent entity or entities. So this is what explains, so in a financial crisis before, during, or post, they would seize the entity. Bank shares would be lost because it's bankrupt. The depositor's money would be seized and transferred into a subsidiary holding company. They got a name for it. It's the government manages. It's called a GRA, Government Retirement Annuity, which was developed in 2005 under Hillary with Teresa Garladucci, which leads us into what will happen, who gets elected. We have to deal with our debt somehow. It's going to be $20 trillion about.
It's about time.
Yeah. But we have some options, and I relay them out in this report. And I just read one little piece of the puzzle of multiple pieces. The International Monetary Fund, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, 5 times in the last 3 years, how the government has tested the bail-in in our country and didn't create any upheaval. People don't even know what happened. Most of them didn't. I watched it and I reported it. So this is the report, tells everything. And there's more I'm going to bring onto this report in our 6th edition. So what's happening is we have to move forward and take care of our debt. We either going to default on it, and President Trump, excuse me.
Whoops.
Oops, flip of words there. If Trump gets elected, he's talked about filing bankruptcy, and he has ways of doing that. He's done that before. That would cause financial catastrophic things to our country. Just talking about it would cause a severe downgrade in our credit worthiness by probably all 3 credit rating agencies. So defaulting is not a solution. Marking down the debt is a default. Inflating it is another way. The feds are trying to raise rates. They haven't been able to do that, to inflate our way out of this debt. Or this thing called the bail-in. Hillary is for the bail-in. It's a socialistic type. Hillary really just had to beat Bernie Sanders, a 70-year-old man who believes in socialism. And she is socialism. She wants to have the country pay for people's education. I mean, somewhere the money's got to come from somewhere. There's no money tree in the backyard of the White House.
Luckily, I don't have any.
Yeah.
No.
So the problem is that we're not facing the fundamental problems of our national debt. And when you add our unfunded liabilities, it's around $102 trillion. And according to the International Monetary Fund, we are financially bankrupt. We just haven't admitted it yet.
Right.
So it's a mathematical problem. And this is why it's not about who really gets in office, although I hope Trump gets in office. I don't like everything he stands for. His ethics sometimes are in question, in my opinion. But he wants to grow the economy. He wants to create more jobs. He's actually the only candidate talking about the debt. Now, this is not vote for Trump on this program. No. That's not what this is. But at the same point, we have to get somebody that's going to address the debt issue, because debt will destroy a country. And we're on the verge of that. There's been more of a sell-off of the dollar in the last 4 years in the history of our country. And currently, 40% of our debt is held by our country.
Now, your phone number to call him is 602-287-9200. They do free consultations, and David is all about educating. That's what this is all about. You're telling them things that you've researched, and you have all of this is something that you've gotten off websites. It's not something that, government websites.
Fox News, Reuters, Associated Press, lots of different websites, yes.
You can check them out at landmarkgold.com and call direct at 602-287-9200. You can also get his white paper and all the information on how to take possession of your gold, your money.
There's a reason why gold is up 20% year to date this year, and up 78% since Obama's been in office, and up 300% in the last 15 years. It's the number 1 asset class, gold and silver. It's because the scales have finally tipped the other direction and said, we have a debt issue. America's not admitting it, but the world is seeing it. The ones that are holding the U.S. dollar are saying America now has a financial problem. And moving forward, we have a lot of uncertainty. Who's going to be in office is a big uncertainty. I think the markets will calm down. I think the Feds will probably raise rates here at the end of the year, but I don't think they're going to raise it next year. I think we're going to have a correction in the stock market, 5 to 10% between now and inauguration or first quarter of next year. And we're going to have some major correction in the next 6 months to a year, because we're at the 7-8 year period of time when the stock market goes through a major correction. 2001, 2008, 2015, 16, 17. We're due for a correction, and according to many experts, it's overvalued because it's not moved there on fundamentals of companies making money, good, solid wages coming to good quality people with great jobs. We don't have that environment. We have a falsified economy that the Fed printed money. So we can't fix this thing by going the route we've been doing. Otherwise, I assure you, we're going to have a major bull market in gold the next 10 to 15 years once again. And it will again be the number one asset class. But we're going to have some very tough decisions. Whoever gets in office, we have to get Congress working together, and it's gridlock. We have a divided country, a divided Fed, a divided nation on beliefs on what we should do in moving forward, and divided ideology of what to do to fix this challenge. But we have to first admit we have a problem, and that's where most of the people in our country are not seeing it.
How can they not see it?
Because it's not popular, and it's too big to fix. According to the Congressional Budget Office, and I'll make sure that everybody understands this, it's not Democratic or Republican, they said in 2012, when the debt was $14 trillion, to fix the debt at $14 trillion, Carol, we would have to grow the economy 10% a year consecutively for 10 years. No nation has ever done that in the history of the world. So we're asking for something nearly impossible. This is why they have to do something different, or in addition to growing the economy and cutting spending and raising taxes, they have to do something on top of that. Deflate, devalue, inflate, or possible bail-in. This is why gold and silver makes a vital part of a diversified portfolio. It's imperative now more than ever. Not just because I have a company that sells gold and silver. It just makes financial sense. All you have to do is look at the numbers. There's reasons why it's gone up so much, because the biggest money of the world, called central banks, are the biggest buyers of gold, and they have the biggest risk by holding the most amount of dollars. They've been forced to buy gold, and those are the entities that have driven the gold market, not us as consumers.
I also want to say that you're not talking about everybody putting all of their money in gold. I want to get that out, because it's important for you to say exactly how you feel about someone's portfolio and what they should do.
Putting all your money in gold would be just as wrong as putting all your money in stocks, all your money in mutual funds, or all your money in paper assets, or having all your money in real estate. Look what happened in 2008. We had a real estate bubble that popped. Stocks came down 45%. Real estate did about the same. Took several years to recover it, and some haven't not even recovered. Gold went up 72% the first year and on a multi-year run. Gold has averaged 10%, 9.75% on an average per year since President Obama has been in office. Even after the correction of gold pulling back 80%, that's still, after those numbers, it's still averaged that. So we're in a bull market. We're going to be in one until they take care of our debt. Simple as that.
Call them. The number is 602-287-9200. It's landmarkgold.com. What are your final words?
If you put your money into gold, it'll be there to take care of you, because they can't. It's something that's not electronic. They can't seize it. They can't get their hands on it. Therefore, the bail-in, if they inflate, whatever they decide to do, it's a very positive thing for the experience of having a small or a larger part, depending on what your philosophy is and your tolerance of how much you want to be in paper, having diversified in precious metal. It makes sense.
It does make sense. And you know something? When the people call you, you'll be able to give them the white paper. You'll also be able to tell them about all the information about how to take possession. He's made it unbelievably affordable for everybody to be able to do. Get the information from him. That's what he's all about, is just educating everybody. It's a free consultation. The number again is 602-287-9200. It's landmarkgold.com.